Alright, so this is the one dowel that we put in. You may not be able to mark it, but you may not be able to see it, but I marked this section here. That's the high side. Same with this one. You might be able to see that one better, but maybe not. The reason I did that was so I remembered which side was high side, because we need to angle those the direction that was where our bell housing was out towards. That was our high side, so we need to push it down this way, and that's the side that'll push it down. So now I covered that, we'll throw the bell housing on. Alright, so here we are. As you can see, the dial indicator is out of here. I was able to get a good reading on this, so now we can pull the bell housing back off, and I need to, essentially when I put the flywheel on, I didn't tighten it down all the way, because I knew that I was going to be pulling it off in case I needed to do dowel pins again or whatever the case was. So now I am pulling the bell housing off again. We'll take these bolts out, throw some thread lock on them, torque them down to spec, and then start on our clutch install and getting everything going with that. So progress, baby. Alright, so now that that's out of the way, we can pull these bolts off. I'm going to clean the flywheel with some brake clean before we put the clutch on also, just to make sure that we got a nice clean surface and without any dirt and grime on there that you might actually be able to see on here right now. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see it, but it is pretty filthy. So just from being around the garage and all that stuff. So we will clean that up, and we'll take these bolts out and put some Loctite on those, torque them down, and clean up our flywheel before we put our clutch on. Alright, so I got the flywheel torqued down to the ARP's recommended 75 foot-pounds for each bolt. Sorry, that was probably loud. Now, I should have done this outside of the car, but here I am under the car. We are looking at the McLeod single disc that I'm running, which is the, let me get the name of it here, Street Supreme 2JZ 26 spline stage 4. So It's a stage 4 single disc that McLeod offers. This is the clutch itself, as you've probably seen a clutch before, maybe not, but this is what the clutch looks like. Grannas, again, who makes the kit that I'm installing, installs a billet alignment tool, which is nice. The billet just kind of helps it to, you know, not have any real play in it like you might get out of a plastic alignment tool that some companies provide with clutch kits and stuff. And then inside the box, which I probably won't, no, I'll leave it in the box. This here, hopefully you can see that. I might pull it out so you can see it. This is our pressure plate and the fingers and all that jazz. So we will throw our clutch in and get our pressure plate and stuff on, and then they include the hardware, obviously. I mean, with this clutch and whatnot. So we'll get this thrown in. Progress. We're making progress. If you haven't done this before, the idea is to get your flywheel set up, grab your alignment tool, put your clutch on your alignment tool, and then insert the alignment tool and the clutch as one into the pilot bearing, and then that'll stay in there until you're ready to you know, put everything on and get everything tightened down, and then you pull the alignment tool out at the end. While I'm filming this, I will try my best to not put my face in the way. So typically, depending on what clutch you get, some of them will be labeled, you know, flywheel side, or you know, whatever side is supposed to be against the flywheel surface. This one doesn't have that labeling, but there's a protruding section here, and the flatter section is typically the side that goes towards your flywheel. So if you're in doubt, just know that the flat side usually is the side that goes towards the flywheel. I'm not sure why. Maybe I'm just not doing it. Yeah, there we go. No. It's just not wanting to. There we go. All right, so now we can throw our bolts into the bolt holes, torque them down. I will double check the torque specs, but I believe they are 25 foot-pounds, but I'll double check on my paperwork and we'll be good to go. Sweet. All right, so I am under the car again. Obviously, you probably never, well, you would have never known I wasn't under the car anymore. But here we are. So I got the bell housing torqued down. I know this is kind of a strange angle. Bell housing is now torqued down. Clutch is torqued down. I wanted to show you this. So that's nice and solid in there. Flywheel's torqued down. Bell housing is now torqued down. And what we got to do next is measure from our surface. I already did it, but measure from our surface to the tip of these fingers, the clutch fingers, to help get our air gap and adjust for our hydraulic throwout bearing, or hydraulic release bearing. So you use a flat surface or a flat edge across the bell housing, and then measure from there to the tip of the fingers of the clutch here, or of the of the pressure plate. Sorry. And then we'll take that measurement and do some calculations and figure out where we need to place our release bearing in the transmission. So I'll jump out of here and we'll take our measurement. So our measurement was 89 millimeters. So we'll take our measurement. I'm gonna keep it on my calipers just to be safe, so until I can write it down at least, and then I'll walk you through the process of how we need to measure this. All right, so I actually went back under the car and remeasured. I told you initially, I think I said it was 89 millimeters. I went and double checked, kind of manipulated where I was measuring and got a better sight line on where I was at. So rather than 89 millimeters, for me, mine ended up being 85.7 millimeters. So, you know, just a few millimeters difference, but it makes a difference. So basically, I've already done this work. I'm just going to walk you through essentially the idea of what it is. So here we have our transmission, and this is our hydraulic release bearing. So when we do this work, we're going to also measure from the flat edge of the end of the release bearing as it's fully compressed or fully depressed against the surface that mates up with the block. And you want to have that measurement be 4 millimeters less than what you'd measured previously. So I went with, what did I say, 85.7 was my total distance. So minus 4 millimeters gives me 81.7. So the idea with that difference is, as you bleed your clutch, this hydraulic release bearing is going to expand, and you want there to be 4 millimeters in there as it expands. So you add that into that measurement. So you spin this onto the there's some threads back here. So you spin this on, and then as you measure, you know, spin it out, spin it in or spin it out to meet where your measurement is. And then there's this pin that it locks it into place. And then you have your two lines that are made with this bearing. And they come with fittings. So you add your fitting. You want to have one as your top one. That'll be your bleed line. So when you are bleeding your clutch, it will force the fluid. This is going to be my feed line. This is my bleed line again. It'll force it through, up through the bearing, and then all the air will come out of the bleed line. So now that you're caught up on that point, I have some fuel line that I just picked up from AutoZone. It's 3/8, I believe, is what I got. 3/8. And you probably already saw it on the feed line, but I wanted to show you this. I split it so I can open it up, basically so that I can take my line and have this around my line just to kind of have another layer of protection for it. I'm gonna have to trim this, but the idea is that way when it's in here, you're gonna have to you have to route this down through. There's a little hole here so that it'll fit out of the transmission, and you want to have, well, I do, you don't need to. I want to have an extra little barrier between the actual braided line and the aluminum here so that over time it doesn't, you know, vibrate or rub on there or whatever and eat through that line. So I'm just adding this little slip over so that it'll give it some more protection over time so that the lines, you know, last longer at the very least. So yeah, with that done, the transmission's ready to go in. And crazy to believe that's the next step. So transmission will be going in when I can get somebody here to help me lift it into place. And I'll do my best to try and film it. So thanks for hanging out. I appreciate you guys. I haven't done a very good job of doing outros or anything like that during this project, but I want to say thank you. I appreciate you. Even if this isn't the end of the video, who knows? I'll know when I'm editing. But I appreciate you guys watching and subscribing and liking and all that stuff, and we'll get the trans in.